Today, AMD's changing their motherboards, Ryzen 9000 specs and release, Nvidia's 5090 is one big GPU, and AMD just surpassed Nvidia at their own game. This video was sponsored by Ugreen. Welcome everyone to Gamer Meld. Okay, it's news time, and first up for today, if you've been following this channel, you know that AMD is planning a name change for Ryzen. First, they were apparently planning to call it Ryzen AI 100, but later changed it to Ryzen AI 300 to one-up Intel's Core Ultra 200. Now, you may have noticed that I still call it Ryzen 9000, but that's just because I believe this is really just for their APUs that come with NPUs. The desktop variants may still be called Ryzen 9000, but really that's up in the air at this point. But for now, I'm going to be calling that. Either way, just like that name change, AMD is apparently planning yet another name change as well. As you can see right here, according to a news story from Bench Life, well, actually, they got a new motherboard, an upcoming motherboard from Gigabyte, a B650E Aorus Pro. And in that, they actually state it's been confirmed that the chips used with AMD's Ryzen 9000 will be called the 800 series, the same as Intel. So just like they're doing with Ryzen AI, trying to more or less parallel Intel's naming, they're doing the same with motherboards. And the reason I bring up this upcoming B650E Gigabyte motherboard that they're discussing is because also according to this, they claim that looking at the specifications, it turns out that this board is designed for Granite Ridge, which is AMD Ryzen 9000 series processors. And in that, they also discuss something pretty wild here. Yeah, right here, they actually claim that this PCI Express 5.0 slot is designed to withstand a maximum weight of 58 kilograms. And for those who don't know, in the US, that's over 120 pounds. So yeah, I'm not really sure if motherboard makers are starting to expect Nvidia to next release GPUs that double as dumbbells for strongmen or something, but apparently they're planning on them getting even heavier. It's wild what they're designing these slots to withstand, though of course, don't forget that GPU makers themselves have to make stronger PCBs as well, because it'll just crack on the PCB of the GPU, meaning the slot itself is more or less irrelevant in that stance. But regardless, all of that aside, it does look like AMD is planning to change the name of their upcoming motherboards. But first, figuring out all the different wattages of all your different electronics can be pretty tough. So stop thinking about it and use Ugreen's new Nexode X 160 watt charger. Using electronic stacking technology, this piece is able to fast charge your laptop, phone, and tablet all at the same time. I mean, it can deliver a total of 160 watts with the first USB-C port able to pump out 140 watts on its own. And for this kind of power, it's actually a really compact design. It comes with 3 USB-C ports and 1 USB-A port for charging anything you could ever want. You can even fast charge a 16-inch MacBook Pro to 50% in 27 minutes. You can't beat that, especially not at this incredible size. To top it off, it uses Ugreen's Thermal Guard Protection System 2.0, so you never have to worry about overvoltage, short circuits, overheating, or overcurrent. Basically, it's the perfect charger. So don't wait any longer and check out Ugreen's new Nexode X 160 watt charger down in the description below. Oh, and there's a huge sale on the more cost-effective Nexode X 65 watt charger. And next up for today, while sticking to next-gen Ryzen, we actually have a new leak that was found and shared by Video Cards that claims to know when their next-gen CPUs, and we're talking desktop CPUs here, Ryzen 9000, are set for release, as well as some of the final specs. As you can see right down here, this rumor originally comes from a user on the ChipHell forums, and according to Video Cards, who is certainly very trustworthy at this point, this leaker has provided first-hand information on upcoming AMD products before, and many of these claims turned out to be true. So this is certainly someone who does seem to have some insider information about AMD's future products. Either way, as you can see here, it says AMD is reportedly preparing at least 4 variants of desktop Zen 5 CPUs with different core configurations. And it's claimed the initial lineup will feature Zen 5 cores exclusively, meaning these desktop parts aren't going to have Zen 5 main cores and then Zen 5C little cores or anything like that, like what they're doing with their mobile variants. Moving on, it states that it's further mentioned that 16 core, 12 core, 8 core, and 6 core variants are the ones that are set to be released. meaning AMD is not planning to up the core count for Zen 5. And to be honest, that's really not a big surprise at this point. It's ultimately what we've been hearing for quite a while now, though of course, given the fact that Intel does have more cores, it is still at least a little disappointing. Still, the big news here is, well, not much of a surprise. I've been talking about this one for a little while as well, but according to this, the lineup is set to be shown at Computex next week, and we can expect the launch in July. Basically, AMD is really pushing to get these CPUs out as quickly as possible, and they're coming, well, very soon. And next up, we have a new leak that comes from well-known leaker Kopite7Kimi and was later reported by WCCF Tech. And as you can see, it talks about the 5090 GPU is set to feature a massive monolithic die. Well, specifically, they didn't necessarily say massive, though given some of the specs we've been hearing about this, it's almost certainly a giant GPU. But as you can see, it says, do we know if GB202, which would be the GPU that makes up the RTX 5090, do we know if it's an MCM or monolithic design? Don't forget that AMD already released the first kind of consumer MCM GPU in the 7900 XTX card. And of course, Nvidia has already released a GPU that's an MCM design, though of course that one is for AI. Well, yeah, according to Kopite7Kimi, it is still set to be monolithic. And really quickly, I also want to address, I recently went over a video where I discussed a report claiming that the 5090 would use 3 PCBs in one GPU. It does seem like some of you actually got confused by that and thought what I meant was an MCM GPU. That is not what I meant. I actually just meant different PCBs than just stuck together. Basically, they kind of make them separately but then put them together, but not an MCM, meaning we don't have a GPU here on one PCB and then a GPU on another PCB. They're just components that can be separated and put together, but you don't have to have some massive interconnect, really fast interconnect or anything like that. These are more or less not super important parts of it. And yes, I did give an example that they've done this before where both of those PCBs did have GPUs on them, but that was not an MCM design or anything like that. I actually believed it just used SLI, so nothing like what we're talking about when we talk about MCM GPUs, and that is not what I meant when I was talking 3 different PCBs on the 5090. Regardless, it was somewhat up in the air whether the 5090 would be based on an MCM design, especially given the fact that rumors have pointed to the next lower GPU basically being almost exactly half, but I really doubted that at the time, and it definitely looks like that's not going to be the case. And lastly for today, it looks like AMD is set to surpass Nvidia at their own game. This report actually comes from a recent keynote speech by Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella. During that speech, as you can see here, he actually gave a rundown of the developments the firm has been making in the AI sector, claiming that rapid scalability has occurred over the past few months, which is why he categorized the era as the quote golden age of system. Well, he also showed this right here. And as you can see, it talks about the MI300X, and for those who don't know, who didn't really see it, AMD announced this a little while back, and I did discuss this then. Basically, the MI300X is their APU, but then they took out the CPU cores and just made it this monster GPU based on their CDNA3 architecture. And this bad boy comes with a whopping 192 gigabytes of HBM3 memory for 5.3 terabytes per second memory bandwidth. So this is one beast of a GPU. Well, according to Microsoft, this bad boy has leading price to performance when using GPT-4. Basically, AMD looks to have surpassed Nvidia at their own game, which is of course AI. So while that does it for today, what do you think about Nvidia actually catching up and beating Nvidia at their own game? Let me know down in the comments below. And don't forget to check out Ugreen's awesome new charger down in the description below. And as always, have a great day.